Donny Gilbert joins me now. And brokers, we have some advice for you. Get out of your comfort zone. What do you mean by that?
Emily, watched Zach Strickland yesterday give a great update on what was going on with tender rejection rates. Throughout the last couple weeks of July, we've seen them just keep falling in decline, just keep coming down for both reefer and dry van. Through the first week of August, they've continued to decline. So going for there, we need to, if you're a broker, to get out of your comfort zone, get out of the box that you're normally operating in. We know that a lot of carriers like to run to the larger markets like Chicago, Memphis, Dallas, Atlanta, where a lot of large volumes are. Look out away from those areas and finding some markets that are a smaller market that still have a good volume or good tender rejection rates. I brought here today our tender rejection map for dry vans. You see our Chicagos are a light blue, your Dallas are a light blue, and that's because the rates are really struggling in those markets. Looking around, you're looking for the darker shades of blue. Out here in the Midwest, we find a lot of areas that are picking up with tender rejection rates, but the volumes are a little bit smaller than what you're used to operating into, and a lot of carriers will avoid these areas. So we need to look in these areas and find you a good, strong market and get a hold of these carriers and say, hey, look, don't just move your truck to Chicago. They'll deadhead 100+ miles, and they don't realize that they don't have to move their truck that far, because with these tender rejection rates picking up in this area, the rates are starting to rival those of Chicago that has a 3.4 tender rejection rate.
Yeah, there's some small markets you're saying near Chicago that could be good to go to.
And normally avoid them because the rates are so low, but the tender rejection rates have picked up in the smaller markets, bringing the spot market rates up when the spot market rates in Chicago have gone down. So now they've actually rivaled up to where they're about the same rate per mile, within 2 or 3 cents.
Oh, wow.
So instead of moving your truck 100 miles over to Chicago, you might be able to stay in the market that you're in and find a comparable load and make the same amount of revenue, but save on your expenses, which right now, everybody needs to be saving all the costs that they can with the type of market that we're in.
Yes, and you have an idea of a great market here.
Yes, I want to kind of dive into Rock Island, Illinois. The volume's around 70, which is less than half of Chicago, but it still is a lot of volume for this size of a market. The tender rejection rates are 8.80 and 8.85%, which is about 9%. That tells us the rates are above contracted rates, and they're still a relatively strong rate for that area. So instead of moving your truck from Rock Island, now Rock Island it's southwest of Joliet and just north of St. Louis. So a truck there, instead of moving to St. Louis or Chicago, they can find a load out of this market that's very comparable to what they'd find in Chicago and St. Louis.
And you're talking about deadheading. No one wants to do this. This is the way not to do that. And it's all about money right now, especially with the way the market is.
When you're deadheading, the cost is all on you. You're bringing in no revenue, and you're paying, for the most part, you're paying a driver for the miles, and you're paying for that fuel. And at 5 or 6 miles per gallon, that fuel can get pretty expensive. So we're looking at this map here today, and we can see on this map what Zach was talking about. Here in the last few days, you see a lot of declines coming down. Now, dry van and reefer have declined in this market, but they're still elevated compared to the other markets. The average is 3.4 for dry van, they're at 8.80. So it's still a lot higher than what the average is. So with our rating tools, you can see that they're about 7 days behind. And in this decline, right now, if you're booking the loads out of Rock Island, you might be able to still get a better rate as the carrier rates are falling. So if you're booking for maybe Thursday, you might be able to lock that down today, and as carrier rates fall, that could help increase your margins.
Why do you think brokers are so hesitant to go to these smaller markets?
Because they're scared of taking a loss. If they jump out of their comfort zone, there's been times they've actually been burned. Well, they're book a load and they think they're going to make $50, $100, $200, and capacity might be a lot tighter. They're not used to working with those carriers, and they end up losing $200 or $300. And once it happens kind of once, they're very shy and they don't want to go back. And the problem is they got to keep trying and keep trying. If you lost $100, we'll try to work in and get a higher rate at the same time, get your carrier group to push those carrier rates down some, and eventually you'll figure out that market. But you have to keep trying, and as I said, get out of your comfort zone, and you'll eventually learn those markets and you'll be successful.
Yeah, great advice there from Donny Gilbert. And of course, you are watching us on YouTube, so hit subscribe. Follow us on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Instagram. We hope everyone has a great Tuesday.